I'm gonna do a little demo of how we mix drums. Um, Basically, most of the people, when mixing drums, they try to pull off an EQ right away. But sometimes people forget that checking the phase, if if the mics are out of phase, checking that alone does great things to a drum sound. So let's just take off all the plugins and listen to the drums. Okay, so that's the sound of the drums for now. And what I did was I bust out all the drums to this folder, and they're all in there. And I put this two bus control from MAAT, and as you can see here, there's an indicator of the balance where if you're heavy mixing on the left or right, and there's this -1 and +1 you see here for correlation. If it goes +1, if you check like two microphones and it goes +1, it means you're kind of on the right direction, or your mics are in phase. So let's check out. I'm gonna try to check out the sub kick drum and the kick mic on the front and see if they're in phase. So what I do is, if I'm checking two mics, I pan hard left and right, and looks like they're in phase. So let me check if this improves it. I'm gonna flip the phase of the sub kick drum. So you see here that it's going on the -1, meaning one of the mics there are out of phase. So I'm gonna flip the kick drum, the sub kick drum, and you see it going to +1 ish. So it's a bit better. Okay, so what I do is I check all all the mics if they're in phase, right? So now I know my kick mics are good. I start checking kick versus the snare. Looks like it's good also. Then I check the snare and the bottom snare. Again, panning hard left and right. Looks like they're pretty good too. Then I do check overheads if they're in phase. Looks like it's good too. Then I check the room mics if it's in phase. So right now I'm gonna check the overhead left versus this one, this room mic. So it looks like it's a bit out of phase. So I'm gonna flip the phase of the room mic. That looks better. I'm gonna check that room mic against the right overhead. That's not flip. Flip the phase. Boom. Looks like it's good. So now I know my room mics, my overheads, my kick and snares are all somehow in phase. Then I then from there on I just start pulling off an EQ to boost stuff, right? So if 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 your mics are out of phase, usually you have this very thin quality because some frequencies are canceling out and not agreeing with each other, right? So before I do that, I check the toms also if they're in phase. Okay, looks like toms are healthy in phase, and you can go check it against the overheads. So if tom one is panned hard left, I check it with the left overhead, see if it's in phase. Pretty good. Then I check the floor tom, the other overhead. All good. So now let's listen to the drums. Now I know that I'm a bit confident that the drums are in phase. Let me check this tom. Okay, we don't need this. Now I know the drums are somehow in phase. Then that's the only time I pull up an EQ or start messing around with leveling. I don't just usually pull out an EQ and start boosting bass of, you know, drum drum mics, because again, there's no point of boosting stuff if we don't know if our mics are in phase. We might be just flipping off a phase and we get some extra bass from there. Okay, so it's always best to check if we're in phase before we pull out an EQ, before we pull out a compressor, before we pull out all the mumbo jumbo stuff, before mixing the drums. So now I know we're in phase, so I definitely compress the snare. It's my favorite plugin, LA2A from Avid. I make sure my snare goes on that around 6 dB on full scale. Or I know this is the Pro Tools Classic metering, so it's 0 here on the left on the full scale, and it's -6 here. But I gotta check what those meterings do. But usually I've been stuck with Pro Tools Classic metering, and I like my snares just hitting that area. So with my kick, I like compressing my kick. So what I can do is obsess on a part there. Then I pull off an EQ to kick and clean up some rumble and bring up some extra bass from there and some snaps on the kick. Maybe like that, yeah. And bring in the subs. Since I'm working on Dolby Atmos, I send my kicks to a sub. Okay, and you can see it here that channel 4, which is the sub, is reacting very well with my kick drums. So I put my sub kick and my kick mic in there. Maybe let's put some of the toms just really, really little. Very, very powerful tool, this MAAT. Yeah. And once I get a sort of impression that, oh, this is kind of one of the drums that I really want to hear, I add this favorite plugin of mine, which is the Avid compressor. There's this preset I use, which is called the Steamroller, and I've been using this preset since 2004, I think, 2005, when I started discovering Pro Tools, and it just really squashes. So I always put it on my bottom snare. I don't squash much on stuff. So I put it on my bottom snare, I gate my bottom snare. Maybe cut some of the highs. And combine it with my snare. I'll remove it. So crushing that bottom snare just gives that extra oomph that I kind of like on the mix. And from there on, I just turn everything on. see how where we're at. Then when I get that impression that I'm getting to some really nice drums, I kind of like crushing the room mics as well. I use steamroller. Without it, let's listen. Cool. With the steamroller, it just gives me that extra thing that I like. Then, lastly, what I do is I try to EQ the overheads and dip some of that 200 hertz, that boxy area. I try to like somehow take out of the a bit of the room on the overheads and let my room mic kick in with that squashy sound. But totally up to you if you want your drums to have that room sound in there. And now I'm gonna check my sub kick and put an EQ in there and make sure that that sub kick is just really concentrated on the low frequencies. And there you go. That's a sort of sample thing or sort of demo on how I mix drums. No reverb, no anything for now, but I try to use my room mics and my bottom snares to be the sort of reverb, like a very tight reverb in the room. And again, I like my drums to be on that sort of 6 and 0 thing here on the meter. If you in Pro Tools, you can pretty much change all of those, how you want to see the metering. But if you check on a K20 or CATS 20 meter, you see that the drums are still averaging on that sort of 0 in there. So, but again, to be less complicated, I like sticking on Pro Tools Classic. And to appreciate what you're really doing, you know, um, it's nice to take off the plugins, okay, and bring them back in. There. So no triggering, no anything. But as you can see, I really heavily gated all my kick and snares and allow all my room mics and overheads to have that other detail that I'm taking out from all those from my snares and my kicks, right? I like having really tight snares and kicks. So boom, and look at my toms as well. I delete all the stuff that's really not needed, and just keep all those tom clips clean. I've not EQ'd the toms yet, but yeah, pretty cool. So let's check the other toms. Maybe I could bring it up a bit. Yeah. Yeah, check on my Dolby. Maybe get a nice level there. When EQing toms, I like obsessing on parts, like I loop the toms. Let's just keep looping the toms till you get a really good groove out of there. I put an EQ and let's not use the backs first. So maybe make sure I gate that bottom snare some more so it doesn't interfere with the toms. Or best really is to cut that audio file off. It's safer. That's without the room mic. This is the room mic. Cool. So there. By the way, the drummer's EO. We recorded this like I think way back 2018. So yeah, cool. I'll see you in the class. Bye.